welcome Caroline Shaheed, right?
Correct.
It's such a pleasure to have you join us today. And we're all looking forward to the conversation. So I'm just going to start with the first question, which is you started your career as a journalist, chasing stories and asking all the wheres and whys, right? What pulled you towards storytelling in the first place?
I mean, I don't know if you can say something pulled me towards storytelling. I think it's always been a part of me. Like as I was a kid, I loved to write stories and read. So it was just always something that I've done. And then at one point in my life, I like actually, it's funny how you get into careers. I was in university. I was working in a cafe in Toronto, and I met these people who were starting a magazine, and I was also like studying architecture and design, more interior design at the time, like at night school after doing university, and we started talking about things, and then they asked me to work for the magazine, and then I started working in like lifestyle journalism there, and then through that journalism's a very small industry, and it's getting smaller. So I transitioned into brand work, and started working in like social media and strategy and marketing and advertising and whatnot. So that's kind of the trajectory of how I got into it. It was sort of happenstance, but it made sense at the time. It just made sense for me because telling stories, connecting the dots has always been something that I've thrived in and enjoyed. It was a
Amazing.
very unlinear career trajectory from what I went to school for as well.
Amazing. Was there a moment in your journalist days that changed the way you see people and culture?
Um, Not really, no, to be honest. Just it's not changing the way that I see people and culture, but just learning more about people and culture. I don't think I ever went into it with a singular view of people as one thing and culture as another thing. It's just people and culture they're alive, right? And they're constantly evolving. So my job as a journalist and as a strategist is to take notes on that and notice what's happening and find the patterns in that. So I can't say that there was any one moment that changed a perception I had because I never had one perception of people and culture. Things aren't linear. The world isn't linear. Your career isn't linear. So you might go in thinking you're going to do one thing and then you switch to another. So I guess that's a takeaway. Like don't ever, like, that old saying, like, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. It's the same thing with your career. Like you might have one idea of how it's going to go and it will absolutely change. Okay, Annie had sent me some questions earlier too, so I can answer one of them. So they one of the questions, sorry, I just have them up over here, is so I describe strategy as both art and science. And what I mean by that is like the art of strategy, it's that instinct, right? It's the storytelling, it's the emotion, the imagination that makes ideas memorable. So it's like how we turn insights, like the research and what we gain from that research, into something that people actually feel. And the culture part of strategy is taking a look at what's happening in the world, the context. So it's understanding what people care about, what their problems are, how you can help solve them, like what's shaping the conversations. And so when you're working with brand works, you're looking to see like how can a brand authentically show up in that space. So when you bring those together, that's when strategy stops being like a static plan and turns into something that's alive, something that connects people, like, and moves them to act or do the thing that you're hoping that they do. So that's what I mean by strategy is both art and culture. So it's the imagination plus the context of the current environment of for the people. So the next question that Annie had sent me is This one's kind of funny. If your journey so far was a headline, what would it say? And this one's kind of difficult. But I was thinking about this morning, and I think what it would be is, a human in pursuit of the stories that connect us. So that's something that I've always done, like with journalism, with marketing, with PR. It's looking for what connects us, what brings us joy, what makes us feel human, and how to really build those connections with the audiences that we're talking to. And that's something that's really important when it comes to strategy and marketing and anything like this, is you need to understand who your target audience is, and what they care about, and what they're struggling with, in order to find the stories that connect them. And that's the most important thing, is finding those connections, because otherwise it's just messages that won't land. You need to know people, you need to understand people, you need to talk with them, not at them. So that's what I would say about that, and the why. um and then the next question is, what's one thing that people would be surprised to learn about me? That one's actually harder than you would think, because I think I'm pretty much an open book, and like, not a lot of surprises, because I'll just tell you anything you want to know. But some things about me that are different to my career is, did my I got my yoga teacher training 10 years ago almost, and yoga's always been a big part of my life. I love the movement, the breath work. I'm interested in a whole bunch of little things. Oh, and a weird little thing is, I got really into paint by numbers a couple years ago. I find it kind of relaxing, and a way to get your head out of the everyday. So maybe that. Um, yeah. Hi, yeah, Rovine, I absolutely remember you, and it's very nice to see you again. Please do stay in touch as well. Like, let's keep talking. Um, okay, and then the next question here is, I've worked with brands like Amazon, Microsoft, and IKEA. What's one insight about people that always holds true no matter what? And this goes back to what I was just saying here. No matter what brand you're working with, the most important thing is to put the customer first, not the brand first. So, yes, every brand has a priority. However, you need to put the customer's needs before the brands, because if you're just talking about your brand needs and not paying attention to what's going on in the world, what people are struggling with, what they care about, then your marketing isn't going to land. It's going to fall flat, because people want to feel seen, they want to feel heard. And if you can't do that, then you won't win, and they will go to your competitors who actually are doing that. So that is the universal truth when it comes to strategy, when it comes to branding, when it comes to PR, marketing, advertising. The customer always has to come first, no matter what brand you're working with, whether it's, the National Ballet of Canada, Amazon, Subway sandwiches, IKEA, whoever, small brands, big brands, whatever. Customer always has to come first. Um, and then the next question is, you've said strategy starts with truth. How do you uncover that truth while you're building campaigns? Well, this is actually a really simple question to answer, because it's how you uncover truth for anything, whether it's journalism, advertising, etc. It's research. You have to do your research. You have to find the truth through data. And you need to look at all that data, find the patterns, find the truths, and make sure that you're looking at credible sources, because as we all know, the internet and AI are out there, and people can put anything on the internet, and AI has hallucinations. So when you're using AI, and Ravina, I see you're asking a question about how to take advantage of AI. So this will bleed into that. When you're using AI, the AI is a great tool, and I love it. It'll help refine your research, but you have to always ask AI to provide the sources for the data that it's serving you. So always ask it for its sources. And when it provides you a source, don't just take that as truth. Look at the source, click the link, go in, find, make sure that you're fact checking. Fact checking in the day and age that we're in right now, fact checking is so important because you don't want to provide misinformation. You don't want to lie to your customer. You don't want to lie to your client, and you want to make sure that what you're doing is above board. So with AI, you can use it for research, absolutely. When we're talking about brand and marketing, one thing actually I just did recently was I just built an entire deck about making brands searchable on AI, because as we know now, people are using AI instead of browsers for searching. They're looking how to, shop in a new city, how to find a healthy meal, how to plan a vacation, how to use the contents of their fridge, how to plan a workout. So you want to make sure your brand can show up in AI. So you need to figure out how to do that. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, like making sure that you're using SEO, seeding your brand with reputable publications, et cetera, et cetera. So prompt engineering is also really important there. So AI can do a lot of wonderful things. However, to put it together, you need to use your brain. So I like to use AI as a jumping off part or a finishing part, but the middle, you have to do yourself. So it can help you, ideate, like you need a few ideas of how to connect with people for X, Y, and Z. It can give you some ideas to get your brain thinking, but anybody can ask that same question and get that same answer. So you need to find your way to spin it so it's unique for your brand. And then as like the finishing touch, I like to, if I'm building a deck, like refine my phrasing for, say, a client, or spin it to, like, I was building a deck, a report, and I was like, okay, now I fed it into my AI, and it's a gated AI. That's really important. You never want to use an AI that's not gated with client information. But like you can feed it in there and say, like, now I want to present this to a client. How can I rephrase it to make them see that what we're doing is valuable and potentially invest more with us? So there's lots of ways that AI can help with your language, refining, making things more concise, helping you with research. It can do a lot of things, but you have to be very careful with it. Never put proprietary information. Like, make sure if you're using an AI that you're making sure that if you do use proprietary information, it's gated. And to do that, you have to have an enterprise AI or pay for one. Never put anything proprietary or personal of your own into a non-gated AI. Um, then you're just opening yourself up. Um, okay, next question is, okay, one is, it said, you often talk about following weird but interesting threads. Can you share an example that led to something unexpected? So, what I meant by this is when you're in conversation with somebody, like when you're doing an interview or talking to a client or a brand, you go in with your set of questions, but don't just stick to that. You need to listen to what the person you're talking to is saying, because more often than not, they will drop a nugget of gold that is way better than any question you have prepared. And if you're only waiting for them to finish their answer to your question to get to the next question and not really like paying attention, you're going to miss that nugget of gold that's going to lead you to a way better question that gives them a way more interesting answer. So that's what I mean by following those weird, interesting trends or threads. Follow those to get better answers that will give you a better brand story that will actually connect better with your audience. So that's what I mean by that, like making sure that you leave yourself open to finding a new path. Um, okay, and then the next question is, for young creatives and strategists, what's one underrated skill that you think they should master early. And this is something I actually figured out, I think a year or two ago. Facilitation, I think, is one of the most important skills that we're not taught in high school that I think is a disservice to all of us. So, what I mean by that is facilitating conversations. We're so often used to playing ping pong, where it's like, Annie asked me a question, I answer back. She asks, answer back, answer back, answer back. What you want to do is you want to play volleyball. You want to invite everybody into the room. So pay attention to what's going on, because what we do in society right now is the voices that are the loudest and the fastest are the ones that get heard the most. So, what we want to do is pay attention to the people in the back who are probably sitting there having a really thoughtful idea that they're maybe not not used to being called on. So try and involve everybody in that conversation to get more views. So really you want to play volleyball, pass that ball to more players on the team. I think that's a skill that we really need to start mastering young and early to get more perspectives in, and to go with more than one source so that we get a better, more varied story, and so that we're able to understand each other better. Because I think that's what we're lacking in the world is the ability and the desire to understand more voices. And as we all know, that's so important. Um, so with what sources should you look at? I mean, it really depends on what you're doing, like, but making sure that your sources are verified, like not just taking any random blog post. So you want to make sure, like, if you're looking for data, like McKinsey, Forrester reports, white papers, verified news sources, um, Deloitte, trend reports, like making sure that the sources that you're using are credible. That's really important. And then about branding, what's one skill that someone shouldn't lack? I think it's curiosity. Like, you need to be curious. What's happening? Why is it happening? What does it mean? What's going to happen next? Like with AI, like, how do we use it? How do we use it ethically? Like, what are the guardrails? Like, what is it telling us? Like, I did a project for myself where I asked AI last year to create a picture for me of a modern CEO. I didn't give it any other parameters. And what it shot me was a picture of a young white man in a suit, like with his arms crossed across his chest. And so I said, why? Why did you give me this? So always ask the question of why. And then it gave me all this rationale. And I was like, why was it male? Why was it white? Why was it dressed like this, et cetera, et cetera? Because AI has bias, and you need to understand that. And the reason, think about who is creating these AIs, and it's a lot of men and a lot of white men. So you need to make sure that you're conscious of this bias for the information that it gives you, and figure out how to make sure that that information is well rounded, because it will give you, it's an aggregator. AI is an aggregator of what's popular out there. So you need to make sure that you're digging a little bit deeper for things like that. Um, okay, and then verified sources, white papers, not a random blog. Yes. Yeah, trusted United Nations, CNN, Bloomberg, etc. Use those verified sources. Okay, next question. Um, what is a personal habit that helped me grow? So I think one of them is being curious, has helped me grow, and also, like, not being cynical, but also questioning, wanting to know why. Why is this happening? What is the reason? Is this true? Why is it true? Why is it not true? So I think that really helps, and not getting stuck on one thing, knowing when enough research is enough, and then taking my data set, going through it. So you've got to gather, refine, optimize, work, and study. So those are the steps with how to turn data into a strategy. Um, so, and then the next question is asking about setbacks and how that teaches you things success can't. So if you're just doing everything right, what are you learning, right? Like you're not learning your next step. But everybody fails. Everybody fails. And you need to take that failure, study why it happened. What did I do that led to this failure? Then you have your aha moment and you use that for the next step. So you don't do that again. You're going to fail again. Absolutely. But you're not going to make that mistake again. So you need to, and like, it's the same for everything, right? Um, okay, hang on. In this part of the world, esports is still a new concept. When pitching esports to someone who has little understanding of it and may not even know what questions to ask, how can I satisfy their curiosity to help them see its potential value? Okay, this is interesting. So, with this, you can use this for any concept, right? Esports, I don't know, like selling mugs, whatever. So you can use AI for this as well. You can say, help me explain esports to me like you would to a third grader. Put it in simple terms. And then what you always want to do is explain things so simply. Take out all the data, take out all the like analysis, take out all the academics, make things super simple. Say X leads to Y gets you to Z. Make it the simplest possible explanation in the world. That's going to help satisfy their curiosity and help them see the potential. So when you're saying like with esports, like show them why people love them. It helps them connect. It gamification is a big thing. It gives you hits of dopamine. It's fun, right? And when people play esports, they get this. So if you can leverage this, you're going to show that you're connecting to the fandom of this audience. You're showing that you understand what they love, that you're part of the community. And that will help your brand grow with this particular target market. And you can do that with anything. It's showing how that connection will help the brand build affinity and loyalty. I hope that helped. And if you guys have any other questions, just keep throwing them in there and I'll react. So another one was, how do you protect your creativity and mental space in such a fast-moving and noisy industry? Great question. I don't have the answer. It is such a fast and difficult industry. I go in with the idea that I'm going to protect my mental health, but you know, it's difficult. But what I do is, like I said earlier, yoga is a big part of my life. Also, I try and start my day when I'm taking the train and then walking into work with some calming music to set the tone for the day, to just sort of like let my mind be a bit calm and then go into it going, okay, this is today. This is what I have to do today. This is what I can get done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what's in my control. But you also have to be able to separate work a bit and do something that you enjoy. So, like I said earlier, paint by numbers is a weird hobby that I've gotten into that brings me a little stress relief. It's kind of fun. It's artistic. You get to pull back and look at the bigger picture. Music is a big thing for me. You know, books, I love to read as well, and you know, just having, and movement. You got to like be good to yourself. Move, walk, yoga, workout, whatever you love. Find the thing that you love and do that. Like if you don't love a hardcore hit workout, don't do it. If you do it. It's all about what works for you personally. Okay, next question is, I've worked with global brands and culture. How can marketing truly connect people rather than just selling to them? So this goes back to what I was saying about putting your customer first. You need to know, and also the esports. So you need to know what your customers are interested, and this requires a lot of research. You're looking at a particular cohort, and you need to know the signals, their interest bases, and how can your brand authentically tap into them. So something that I've always loved, there's this meme of looking at demographics and why demographics aren't great signals. Interests are signals, not demographics, because you can look at, say, Ozzy Osbourne and Prince Charles, both British men, same age, both incredibly wealthy, both live in castles. However, very different interest, very different lifestyles. So marketing to rich white men living in England, living in a castle of, like, I don't know, in 70 to 80-year-old, they all fit in that. They both fit in that demographic, but they're very different. This is why you have to look for signals, interests, actions. What do your audience do online? Where do they spend their time? How do they like to be spoken to? What do they do offline? Who do they talk to? What do they visit? Like, what are their activities? Do they play a certain sport? Do they online game? Once you know all that information, then you can speak to them and you can connect with them. Okay, so the next question is, what gives you hope about the next generation of creatives and strategists? Okay, this is an interesting one. So a lot of people complain about Gen Z. There's a lot of things I love about Gen Z. They've really started protecting their boundaries in a way that millennials and Gen X haven't. Those of us who are in those millennial and Gen X cohort, we will work all hours of the night and burn out. Gen Z is saying, like, I will give you all of my time during the work hours, but up to a point. And then my time is my time. And if you're not paying for it, you're not getting it. And I love that. I love that they're not living to work, they're working to live. And that is a big difference. And it's something that we all need to do to protect ourselves, because you're no good to your clients, you're no good to your company if you're burnt out, if you're no good to yourself. You need to take care of yourself. And I really like that about this new generation, and that they can do that because it'll allow them to think of new ways to connect. Okay, so here's one. If you could challenge everyone listening today to do one thing differently after this session, what would it be? So there is a trend that's happening in marketing, and that I'm sure you've all seen on social media. And everybody is jumping on the bandwagon, doing the same thing, variations of the same thing. So, like, Taylor Swift announces she's dropping a new album. Every brand jumped in and made some sort of meme about that album. So it was just your social feeds were filled with everything that was the same. It's everybody's trying to do the same thing quickly, instead of trying to stand out. And I think, and nothing's making an impact anymore because you've already seen it 700 times. I think what's really important is taking a step back and trying to figure out, what can you do that's unique, that's ownable to your brand, and not the same as everything else, because it gets really boring. So you need to look at who the brand is that you're working on. What is their brand foundation? And how can you speak to that honestly and authentically and creatively. So I think, the brand foundation is something that I think is super important to understand. And a brand is a promise consistently kept. And what that means is you need to know who your brand is, what you do. So the brand foundation is built on your core values. It's built on your brand position in the marketplace, and it's built on your messaging. So in order to understand all of that, you need to know who your brand is through and through, and always make sure that your marketing speaks to that. And I think that's something a lot of brands forget. They try and jump into all of these trends and to make sure that they're like in the zeitgeist, and they forget who their brand is, and then people don't understand. I can't, Annie. A brand is a promise consistently kept. I can't own that. That is not coined by me, but is something I strongly believe in. This was owned by a marketing professor who I can't remember his name, but I will find the link. But it is very true. Hold on, I will write this for you. Is a promise consistently. And the reason that you love that is because it makes so much sense. And and because it is truth, right? Okay, wait, there's something someone said up here. Let me just scroll up to read this properly. One issue I've noticed with branding positions is they often follow their own direction, assuming they knew best, instead of listening to the client and the audience. So that's interesting. So what I'd love to know there is when you say they're listening to their own direction, is this they've done research and they're looking at the data, what the data is telling them? Because sometimes clients think that they know best, but the data is saying something else. So that's something that I'd love to dive deeper into. But it does have to be a collaboration. What is the data telling you? What is the client's data telling you? What is the audience telling you? So how do you balance a client's feedback when it comes to conflicts with data? Okay, that's a hard one. And sometimes the client just wins, and that's how it is. The thing you have to understand is when you're doing this, you're going to go in with your strategy. You're going to go in with all of your evidence and data points, and you're going to show the clients what it means. Here are your insights based on this. This is the direction that you, as the expert, are saying that you should go in. You are advising them to go in this direction. However, the client has final say. And as long as you go in with all of your data zipped up tightly and all of your insights with your strategic direction, and you say, this is why you should do this, the client can reject it and say, no, we're going to do this. And so then you go and you will end up doing that. And then when you do your report, you show them the results. And if they're right, great. You show them the results. You were right. We did this. This worked. If they weren't right, you show them, okay, so we did this. This resulted in this because of this. With this information, we suggest going back to the strategy we pitched before, or the strategy that we've now devised through those insights. So it's constantly a learning process. You're going to win some battles, you're going to lose some battles, but you, as the strategist, have to know when to say, okay, I'm going to step back, we're going to do yours, and then we will report on what happened. This is how it works. Like, it's their brand, they make the final decision. So that's just how it goes. And you need to know when to let go and when to hold on. And you get that through experience. For someone who's exploring the intersection of media technology and storytelling, where should they start to build real expertise? So I'm not sure I totally understand this question. So are you asking where should you start in terms of a role? Where should you start in terms of your research? Where should you start in terms of like talking to people? Um, so if you're asking in terms of where should you start in terms of your career, I would career path. Okay, so you mean career path. So, the most important thing is talking to people. Talk to people who work in the industries that you're interested in. Um, Sorry, I'm having a bit of dry throat. Um, Talk to people in the industries that you're interested in and figure out what are you interested in? Like what exactly of those three things, media technology and storytelling, are you interested in? So, and then just start digging in more to case studies. And you can ask AI to give you case studies to read and research, and then talk to people and ask like, how can I help you? I'm really interested in this. Can I help you do some research here? Can I help you interview people here? Can I help you do this? Ask them where they started to get where they were. What is something that they found helpful? Really, it's important to just really start building a network and coming to things like this, you know, like talking to other people in your industry. Those coffee chats are super important to learn more, and like take some free courses if you can find them on things that you're interested in. Dive a little bit deeper into the research is what I'll suggest doing there. And then let me just see if there's any other questions that I missed here. Same question. How do you, yeah, that. What are tools that I use to collect and analyze data? Um, so I use a lot of like Mintel reports, trend reports, Deloitte, Forrester. I love a good white paper, things like that. Um, Some of them are paid for, which I get through the agency, which are great. But yeah, like start like looking up trend reports. WSGN is another great one. Um, yeah. Okay, so there were a few more questions here. One was my favorite campaign of all time. This one's kind of easy. Nike Just Do It. It's like the campaign that has lasted like 30, 40 years. I'm not sure. It's so simple and it's so effective because Nike really understands their brand foundation and understands who they are. So just do it. So the thing with Nike is like I'll give you like, so Nike's core belief is if you have a body, you are an athlete. So it's inclusive. It's reframed the meaning of an athlete. And so if you have a body, you are an athlete. So effectively, Nike is talking to every single human because every human has a body of some sort. And then their brand vision, so this is all part of the brand foundation, is to do everything possible to expand human potential. So you can see that Nike's doing this, right? They've invented technology like dry fit. They have shoes for athletes who are disabled that are easy to slip on. So they're really trying to expand what it means to be an athlete and how to help those athletes along. And so their brand positioning is they are a sports company that serves people of all athletic abilities, right? So if you are bigger, they serve you. If you are an extreme elite athlete, they serve you. If you're a 5-year-old who wants to play soccer, they serve you, they serve everyone. And so that's part of their brand promise. And their brand promise is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And like they said, if you have a body, you are an athlete. And the Just Do It campaign, just get up off the couch, just go for a walk, just kick the ball, just pick up a tennis racket, speaks to every single person. And that's why I love that campaign and why that campaign has lasted for decades. It's smart and it's simple. Okay, so Annie's question is, you mentioned music as your go-to and books. Okay, so music for me is always going to be 90s hip hop from day one to eternity. I will always love 90s hip hop. Give me Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Farside any day. Um, if I could change careers, what would I do? Honestly, facilitation. I just love the act of bringing people into the conversation and helping that conversation grow. It's more storytelling. So yeah, facilitation, I think, is a phenomenal, amazing career to connect people. And yes, Tribe Called Quest, day in, day out, forever. Like I have Tribe Called Quest shoes. My doormat says, wipe your feet really good on the rhythm rug. Like I am forever and ever a Tribe Called Quest fan. Um, yeah, absolutely. Anybody who wants to connect, drop me a line. I'm on LinkedIn, Caroline Shaheed. I'm on Instagram, C Shaheed. Drop me a line. Let me know if I can help, if you have other questions. I hope this was helpful. It was just a lot of me talking. Um, uh, yeah, one more question. Go for it. Oh, thank you. You guys are very kind. Mm. Um, oh, you're very kind. I hope it was helpful. I know it was a lot of like one-way conversation. I'm glad you guys sent me the questions in advance so that I could answer them. And one of the questions on there was, is there a quote that helps you get you through? And like, I'll give you this last quote. I thought about this morning, and it's from my yoga training. And it's Namaha, which means it's not yours to carry. So you can only do what you can only do. You can only control what you can control. Let the rest of that shit go. Who has the best brand right now? Oof, that's a tough one. But I'll give you some brands who are actually doing things that are interesting. Liquid Death is a water company, like a drinking company. They have broken marketing with their approach. They're not doing like the hydration whatever. They're like going out there and being, like heavy metal about it. It's really interesting. And so now a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon and trying to be like them. So like they set the stage and now everyone's jumping on the trend. Look them up. They're a good one. Okay. Thank you all. I hope it was a fun conversation for you. I had fun talking to you. Thanks for dropping questions in the chat. Um, it's always nice to hear what people want to know. So yeah, and if you don't know Tribe Called Quest, get in there, jump in. People's Instinctive Travels to the Path of Rhythm is the first album. Low End Theory, Midnight Marauders, those three are my favorites. You can't go wrong. Okay. Yay, Annie, we are the same. Okay. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. Bye. Thank you.